Hey, Shalom, shalom, shalom. I want to start off this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakakodash, and double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of the great millstone that rule well and teach well while learning truth 100% according to the Bible. I also want to say shalom to the elect, the 144,000 men, prophets, servants scattered abroad, the four corners of the earth. And shalom to you, Akwaf, which are you sisters that are sincere, and your children as well. Shalom. And in today's video is going to be titled endure till the end, right? And that's basically just, building off what the Spirit has put on me to, basically speak about in this lesson. Because ultimately, that's what all of us brothers and sisters want to do, that are sincere in this thing. We want to endure to the end because we know ultimately there's going to be a reward that we're going to receive for our endurance, for all of the suffering that we're going through, all of the hell that we catch. You see all of the things we do week in and week out, going out on the highways and hedges, teaching his word in truth and sincerity, making our body a living sacrifice, putting up these videos daily to feed and edify the Lord's sheep. We know that ultimately all of these things in which it is that we're doing is going to pay off soon come if we continue to just endure. You see, and that's why we pray and hope that Abaratazah, the Lord, keeps his spirit on us to endure. You see, but that's what it's all about, brothers and sisters, enduring, and like I said, enduring is not something that's easy because, when you're enduring something, it comes with a lot of challenges. And I'm going to actually look at that word enduring, right, on the AI on Google. So we could just get the definition of that real quick. And then I'll get a few scriptures, right? So this is the definition of the word enduring. It goes into continuing or long lasting, right? So, yeah, we want to last in this thing. And guess what? In order for us to last in this thing, guess what? We ultimately are going to have to go through things. You see, it's not going to be a cakewalk to endure. It's not going to be something that you just going to get easily. No, because we got to have patience. And when you go into that word patience, it goes into suffering. So ultimately, we know that in order for us to endure to the end, guess what? We're going to have to suffer a good amount of suffering in this truth, And I'm actually going to a precept I got. This is Sirach chapter 2, right? Verse 1. Because this is what we got to count the cost of, brothers and sisters, when we come into this truth. You see, we got to know that, hey, when we come into this thing, that we're going to have to suffer, that we're going to have to go through hell, that we're going to have to go through certain misfortunes. Things is not going to be good all the time. That's what we got to understand, right? It says, my son, if thou come to serve the Lord, right? Yahweh Shem Yahushua, prepare thy soul, right, for temptation, right? And that means prepare yourself to be going through hell. Prepare for yourself to be going through all type of difficulties. Prepare for yourself to be going through uncertainties in life. You see, this is what you got to understand when you come to serve Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And ultimately, this is all part of enduring, that you're going to go through suffering. You're going to go through turmoil. You're going to go through, ups and downs in the spirit. Things be like that. You see, that's all part of the walk, right? But this is what you got to count the cost of when you come into this truth, that these are the things that you're going to go through, you see. But I'm going to read on down. This is verse 2. It says, set thy heart aright, meaning your mind, and constantly endure. You see, we got to constantly endure, man, no matter what it is we're ultimately going through, no matter what it is that we have to face in this truth in order to receive the victory that we want to receive at the end. No matter what comes our way, we got to continue to deal with it, man. You see, and I'm actually going to a precept on that, right? This is because like I said before, man, we know that everything that we're doing, there's going to be a reward that comes for it. You see, for our suffering, for us going through and enduring, man, there's going to be a reward that the Lord is going to give us, man, if we just continue to, hold on to the faith, man, continue to believe, continue to trust in the Lord through it all, man. This is St. James chapter 5. I'm going to start at verse 10, but the point is at verse 11. It said, take my brethren, the prophets, who have spoken in the name of the Lord for an example of suffering, affliction, and of patience, right? Verse 11. It says, behold, we count them happy which endure. Ye have heard of the patience of Job, right? And have seen the end of the Lord, that the Lord is very pitiful and of tender mercy, right? And that's what the Lord ultimately wants to give us, man. You see, if we continue to just fight and endure and hold on to this truth, man, and truly believe in Yahweh Shem Yahushua, you see, and if we're of his elect, man, the Lord has a lot of things in store for us, man, right? But in order for us to receive that, we got to endure, right? This is Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11. It says, for I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end, man. And that's what the Lord is going to give to his elect, those brothers that endure to the end. You see, the Lord is going to be with them, man. You see, and he's going to reward them for all of their suffering, for all of their patience that they have had. You see, what does it say in 1 Corinthians, right? I'm going to grab that real quick. Chapter 2, and I'm going to start at verse 9, right? In the KJV. It said, but as it is written, eyes have not seen nor ears heard, neither have entered into the hearts of man's the things which Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua have prepared for them that love him, man. And who are those that love the Lord? Those that endure unto the end, those that continue to trust in the Lord, regardless of what it is that they ultimately have to put up with in their day-to-day lives, overcoming everything through Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, trusting in the Lord and enduring to the end. Those are going to be the men that the Lord has prepared these things for, man. And we want to be part of those men that receive these rewards, you see, ultimately for us enduring. So I'm going to get back to Ecclesiasticus chapter 2, verse 2. It says, set thy heart aright and constantly endure and make not haste in time of trouble, you see. Because like I said, when you find yourself going through that fire or going through those hard times that we all go through, then, hey, you don't want to make haste, which means, trying to rush to get out of it. Because 9 times out of 10, the Lord wants you to sit in that fire at times, man. Because like I said, it's all to reprove you. It's all to make you better, you see. And that's what he's doing to all of us when he puts us through these hardships, you see. We're not going through these things ultimately because, the Lord just doesn't like us or because we deserve. Well, we do deserve it to a certain extent, but the Lord is not doing these things to us because he dislikes us, man. You see, the Lord is doing these things because he's molding us to that gold that he wants us to be, right? As it tells you right here, I'm going to grab that. That's in Job chapter 23, verse 10, right? It said, but he knoweth the way that I take when he have tried me, right? Because that's what the Lord is doing to us. He's trying us, man. That's why we go through the sufferings. That's why we go through the afflictions. That's why we go through the hardships. That's why we go through, the pain and all of the other different types of things that brothers and sisters go through in this walk, man. You see, because the Lord is trying us, right? It's all a test, you see. But it says, I shall come forth as gold, right? And that's what we want to come forth as, brothers. You see, because that gold is going to be the elect, man. Those that are going to endure and keep the faith to the end, right? They're going to come forth as that gold in the sight of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. And that's what we want to be, the gold. You see, we don't want to be silver and all of these other different metals. No, we want to be gold, man. You see? And guess what? In order for us to be that gold, we got to continue to keep enduring. You see, we got to continue to keep the faith. We got to continue to keep fighting. We got to continue to keep holding on fast to what it is that the Lord have given us, which is this truth, right? But this is verse 3. It says, cleave unto him, right? And depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. And that's what you want to continue to do, brothers and you few sisters out there, cleave unto the Lord, regardless of what it is in which you may be going through. That's why it tells you in Proverbs 3 and 5 to trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not into thine own understanding. You see, we can't be leaning on to what it is that we think, you see, because like I said, when you find yourself going through that fire, a lot of people, they lose hope. A lot of people, they give up in the Lord. A lot of people, they start doubting, you see, and things like that. We don't want to be in that spirit. We want to trust in the Lord regardless of whatever it is we may be going through. You see, it is what it is. We want to keep that faith to the end, right? But this is verse 4. It says, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, you see, and that's the mindset you got to have, that, hey, even when difficulty comes upon you, that, hey, you got to take it cheerfully, man. And like I said, I know that's easier said than done because, of course, don't nobody really want to go through, stress and, and all type of different hardships. But I mean, that's just part of the battle, man. You see, that's part of the fight at the end of the day. And these are ultimately the things in which it is that we have to go through in order to receive those rewards that the Lord has prepared for those that love him. You see, we got to continue to endure whatever is brought upon us, man. We got to deal with it, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's, whatever it may be, suffering, going through all type of different, hell, afflictions, ailments, all type of different things that brothers and sisters go through, we got to continue to take those things cheerfully, man. You see, because this is ultimately the cost that we or what we have signed up for, you see. So we got to count the cost, right? It said, and be patient when thou art changed to a lower state, right? Verse 5, for gold is tried in the fire and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity, you see. So like I said, everything in which it is that we're ultimately going through, is only building us up at the end of the day. It's not, deterring us. It's building us up more spiritually, you see. And that's what we're going through, these different situations for, to build us up in the spirit, right? So it says, and this is what we got to do. Verse 6, it says, believe in him and he will help thee, right? Order thy way aright and trust in him, right? And let me go down to a precept because that's very good, right? This is verse 10, right? It said, look at the generations of old and see, did any trust in the Lord, right? And was confounded, or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken, or whom did he ever despise that called upon him? You see, verse 11, for the Lord is full of compassion and mercy, long suffering and very pitiful, and forgiveth sins and saveth in time of affliction. So like I said, man, the Lord is going to be with us and through all our situations in which it is that we go through. And we ultimately just got to trust in him enough to know that he will come through for us in whatever it is that we may be dealing with or that we have to go through in this walk. Because like I said, it's not going to be good all the time. You see, you're going to have times of, where you feel low or where you just feel like, things are just going bad for you, you see, but you got to trust in the Lord through all of that. And like I said, he have given us the things that we need in order to comfort ourselves in our affliction, which are the scriptures. You see, that's why it tells you in Romans 15:4 that the things that were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. You see, and also we know that the Lord is not going to leave us nor forsake us, man. You see, as it tells you in what that is, Deuteronomy 31:6. Let me grab that real quick. All right. Bear with me. And it said, be strong and of a good courage, fear not, nor be afraid of them, for the Lord thy power, he it is that doth go with thee. He will not fail thee nor forsake thee. So like I said, as long as you're sincere in this thing, you're doing the things in which it is Yahweh Shai requires you to do to the best of your abilities. You're being sincere in this thing. The Lord's going to come through for you, man. You see, he's not going to leave you nor forsake you. He's not going to let go of you when you're going through things. He's going to be there to comfort you, to aid you in what you're going through, right? And you got to constantly pray to the Lord for that spirit, to be with you in your times of uncertainty, to be with you in your times of, distress, and things of that nature that we all go through. Right. So let me grab another precept that I got, because like I said, all of this goes into enduring, you see. And like I said, we know the Lord will never put anything on us we can't deal with. Right. That's what it says right here. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. It says, there have no temptation taking you. Right. But such as is common to man. Right. But Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that you are able. You see, so ultimately the Lord is not going to put anything on our plate that he knows ultimately we can't handle. You see, and you got to understand that and know that, right? And you got to believe that, you see, because it's different. Salakia. It's different. Salakia, that's Satan. It's different from, going through these things. But you got to believe that the Lord is going to be with you in these times, man, and that he's going to give you the spirit to continue to keep moving forward. You got to believe that through faith, right? It said, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that you may be able to bear it. You see, so the Lord even is going to give us the strength that we need to ultimately to go through these things, man, when we're ultimately faced with them. You see, so he's never going to leave us nor forsake us, like I said before, right? So I'm going to grab this precept right here as well. This is St. James chapter 1. I'm going to start at verse 12. It says, blessed is the man, right, that endureth temptation, right? And when you're enduring something, that means you're putting up with it, right? So like I said, when we come in this thing, we come to suffer. So you're enduring all of those things. You see all of the stuff that's being thrown at you from all sides. You see the fiery darts of the devil. You see all of the different things we go through in our day-to-day lives. You see, we endure all of these things, right? And we hope to endure all the way to the end, right? These temptations, these different, things that we ultimately are faced with in our day-to-day lives, you see. It says, for when he is tried, which means being tested, right? Because we're being tested every day. You see, our faith is being tested. Our integrity is being tested. Who we are as people are being tested. You see, the Lord is always going to throw tests at us to see ultimately how we're going to behave, how we're going to react, how are we going to deal with certain things, right? That's just part of the battle as well. It said he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord had promised to them that love him, right? So like I said, if we just continue to keep the faith and enduring, then that's ultimately us showing the Lord how much we love him. Even when we go through the hardships and when we go through certain different things that at times we don't want to, deal with, but we continue to endure it and bear it and continue to trust in the Lord through it all, then that's showing the Lord that we love him, man. You see, we're not complaining in the things that we go through. You see, we're taking it cheerfully, as I read earlier in the book of Sirach, man. And that's what we want to constantly do, So I'm going to grab this other precept, right? Bear with me. This is Hebrews chapter 10. And I'm going to start at verse 35, right? And it says, cast not away, therefore, your confidence, which have great recompense of reward. You see, and like I said, brothers, when we go through these difficult times, we don't want to throw away our confidence, man. We don't want to stop believing in Yahweh Hashem Yahushua no matter what we go through, you see, because like it says, it has a great recompense of reward. You see, we don't want to cast away our trust in the Lord just because we're going through uncertainty or just because we're going through hard times that we stop believing in the Lord and, things like that. No, we don't want to be in that spirit, man. We want to continue to remain in this thing, man. Right? This is verse 36. It says, for ye have need of patience, which that goes into suffering, like I said earlier, that after ye have done the will of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, you might receive the promise, man. You see? Verse 37, and it says, for yet a little while, and he that shall come will come and will not tarry. And that's talking about Lord Yahushua, who the world England calls Jesus Christ. We can see through all of the prophecies and everything that are happening now in the earth that we're not far away from the Lord making his second return. We see that fastly approaching, man. So like I said, this is not a time ultimately to begin weak or to be down the Lord or to be, losing confidence and, getting weak in the spirit. No, you don't want to be in that mind state right now. You see, you truly want to be trusting in the Lord, regardless of anything that you got to go through or whatever may come your way that you have to, face. You see, you want to continue to trust in the Lord, brothers, and you few sisters out there. So I'm actually grab this as well. This is Hebrews chapter 12. And I'm going to start at verse 1. And I'm going to read on down. And it says, wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, right? Let us lay aside every weight and the sin which does so easily beset us. And let us run with patience, that word patience again, right? The race that is set before us, verse 2, looking unto Yahushua HaMashiach, the author and finisher of our faith, right? Who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, right? And is set down at the right hand of the throne of Yahweh. So like I said, Lord Yahushua, in order for him to receive his position that he's at now, which is on the right hand side of the Heavenly Father, he had to go through shame, man. You see, the Lord had to go through all type of difficulty, man. The Lord had to deal with being spitted on, had to deal with people smoting him. You see, doing all, talking about him, all type of different things, man. You see, the Lord went through it way worse than what we're going through, man. And that's what we got to keep in mind as well when we do go through certain things in our lives is that, guess what, man? The Lord went through it way worse than what we're going through, man. You see? And it says, verse 3, for consider him, right, that endured such contradictions as sinners against himself, lest ye be wearied and faint in your minds, right? So like I said, we got to always keep the Lord in our minds, man. You see, we got to always be focusing on Lord Yahushua, because at the end of the day, we know that, guess what? Ultimately, what he went through, our minds can't even fathom, man. You see, we can't even compare or think about that. So that's why we got to always keep him first and always be thinking about him when we do go through our challenges, man. Is that, guess what? The Lord went through it worse, man. And we know ultimately that we can overcome these things through the Lord, man. You see, as it tells you right here, I'm going to grab that precept through the Spirit. This is St. John chapter 16. And I'm going to start at verse 33 in the KJV. And it says, these things, right, I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace, right? So when we are going through terrible times and when we are going through difficult situations in our lives, guess what? We got the Lord there, man. That's why he's there. You see, he's there to comfort us, man, and whatever it is we're going through, you see, through his words in the scriptures. You see, prayer, we got all type of different tools that the Lord have ultimately given us to ultimately to be able to, seek him, man, and to be closer to him, to receive that comfort that we need when we're going through these difficult times, right? So it says that in me you might have peace, right? In the world, you shall have tribulation, right? Which is what we're going through now. That's all part of us enduring, you see, and going through things. We're going to have to suffer, right? It says, but be of good cheer. I've overcome the world, you see. And we know ultimately that we're going to overcome the world as well. Abarat where the Lord's elect. If we continue to keep the faith and endure and to trust in the Lord to the end. You see, if we don't grow faint, we don't get weak, we don't, take our hands off the plow, you see, which is what we don't want to do. We want to be in this thing for the long run. Because like I said, we see all the prophecies coming to pass, man. We see everything speeding up. We see things are happening, man. So this is not a time, like I said, to be getting weak or to be doubting or to be allowing these demons to mess with you, and things like that. And I'm speaking to myself first and foremost, of course, but I'm going to go up real fast. I'm going to grab this other precept that I got. This is, I'm going to grab, bear with me, brothers. I'm going to grab Galatians chapter 6, right? And I'm starting verse 9. It says, and let us not be weary in well doing, you see. So like I said, we can't allow ourselves to be weary, which means being tired or being, just drained and well doing, man. You see, because we are doing the right thing, serving Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, rehearsing the righteous acts to the best of our abilities. You see, following after the ways of righteousness. You see, abstaining from the things of this world. We're doing the right thing, man. And we got to understand that and know that, right? For a due season, right, which is coming very soon, we shall reap if we faint not. Guess what? We're going to be rewarded, like I said, for our suffers, for everything that we go through, for everything that we ultimately have to put up with in our day-to-day lives, having to be vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. You see, these people that we got to be around every day that are not on the same, frequency that we're on or trying to walk in. You see, it's a battle. But hey, like I said, the Lord is going to reward us for all of those things if we just endure, if we keep the faith, So I'm actually go to another precept that I got, because like I said, this is what we're going to have to go to, or go through, I should say, to receive the kingdom, man. We're going to have to go through that hardship. We're going to have to go through that difficulty, right? That's why it tells you right here. I'm going to go to that precept first. This is St. Matthew chapter 7. And I'm going to start at verse 13, right? That's why it's called the straight gate, right? It says, enter ye in at the straight gate, right? And that word straight goes into a path of difficulty, right? So we're basically in a path of difficulty trying to walk the straight gate, which is, doing all of the things in which it is that is pleasing unto the Lord to the best of our abilities. This is a path of difficulty, a path of hardship, you see? But that's why not a lot of people is going to make it, you see, because it's only for a certain amount of people, man, mainly the elect of the nation of Israel, who we pray and hope to be a part of. But it says, enter ye in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat, right? Because you got a lot of people that are going to be destroyed, but only a few people are going to be delivered and saved on the first go around, you see, of the Israelites. Verse 14, it says, because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth into life, and there be few that find it, you see. So like I said, not too many people are going to endure to the end, man. You see, not too many people are going to hold on to the faith, man, and to keep it, you see, because you got a lot of people that are in this thing now. They're approximately not going to endure to the end. That's why we just pray and hope, that we're other Lord's elect, because at the end of the day, we don't know if we're of that remnant. As it tells you in Matthew 22 and 14, for many are called, but few are chosen. So we know that we've been called into this thing to understand these scriptures and to know these prophecies and these breakdowns. But that doesn't mean that we're automatically going to be delivered. You see, it's all by design at the end of the day. You see, so we just pray and hope that we're delivered. You see, but yeah, I'm going to go to that precept that I actually was going to go to. Because like I said, in order for us to receive the kingdom, we're going to have to go through difficulty, man. Right. We're going to have to continue to just, keep fighting and enduring, man. Right. This is Acts chapter 14, verse 22. In the KJV, it says, confirming the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in the faith. Right. Because that's what we got to do. Continue in the faith. You see, no matter what difficult times we face, no matter what comes in the very near future. Because like I said, we're getting ready to come into some deadly serious times. Right. But we got to continue in the faith regardless of anything that ultimately happens. Right. And it says, and that we must, right, us, talking about us believers, right, you sincere Akim and Akwaf out there. We must, through much tribulation, enter into the kingdom of the Most High, man. Right? Much tribulation, which means going through hell, suffering, afflictions, you see, hardship, pain, all type of different things, man, that we ultimately have to go through in this thing, right? But like I said, none of that should be able to separate us from the Lord just because we know we're going to go through those things, right? As it says right here. This is Romans chapter 8. And I'm going to start at verse 35 because like I said, none of these things that we go through should separate you from the Lord, man. Should none of this deter your faith? Should none of these things ultimately get you down in the spirit? None of it, really. It should really build you up, make you stronger, because that's ultimately what it should do. That's what it's going to do for the elect. It's going to build them up stronger in the spirit. But if you're not of the elect, then they ultimately, people end up falling out. People end up taking their hands off the plow. People end up getting weak, and things like that. We just pray and hope that the Lord doesn't put that spirit upon us, right? But it says, who shall separate us from the love of Hamashiach Yahushai, right? Shall tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or perils or sword, right? Verse 36, as it is written, for thy sake we are killed all the day long. We are counted as sheep for the slaughter. Verse 37, nay, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. You see, talking about the Lord, man. Verse 38, but I am persuaded that neither death nor life nor angels nor principalities nor powers nor things present nor things to come nor height nor depth nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of Yahweh, which is in Hamashiach Yahushua our Lord. So like I just read in those precepts, man, nothing should separate us from the Lord, man. Not going through affliction, not suffering, not the things that are to come in the very near future. You see, none of those things should, deter you from trusting in the Lord, man. You see, or should deter you from enduring and, continuing to keep the faith and fighting, right? So I'm going to go to another precept because, like I said, this is what we want to receive, right? This is 2nd Esdras, chapter 2, right? And I'm going to go down to I'll start at verse 42, right? But this is what we want to receive. We want to be these men that the prophet Esdras saw that ultimately stood stiffly for the Lord, regardless of anything that they went through and whatever it is that they ultimately had to face in their lives. They overcame, man. You see, and they're going to be rewarded for that, you see, for overcoming everything, right? And we're going to be rewarded as well, Abaratazai, if we be of that number, right? But it said, I, Esdras, saw upon the Mount Zion a great people, right? This is the elect, whom I could not number, and they all praised the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai with songs, right? Verse 43, and in the midst of them there was a young man of a high stature, taller than all the rest, and upon every one of their heads he set crowns, and was more exalted, which I marveled at greatly. So like I said, we're going to reap, man. If we faint not, right? We're going to reap, right? Eternal life. You see, we're going to be joint heirs with Lord Yahushua in the kingdom of heaven that's going to be on earth. You see, these are all of the things that we're going to receive, man. And we just continue to keep the faith and to continue to keep enduring, man. Right? Verse 44, it says, so I asked the angel and said, sir, what are these? Verse 45, he answered and said unto me, these be they that have put off the mortal clothing and put on the immortal, right? And have confessed the names of Yahweh. Now are they crowned and receive palms, you see? Verse 46, then said I unto the angel, what young person is it that crowneth them and giveth them palms in their hands, right? Verse 47, so he answered and said unto me, it is the son of Yahweh, right? Which is our Lord Yahushai, whom they have confessed in the world. Then began I greatly to commend them that stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. And that's what we got to continue to do, brothers. You see, pray to the Lord to keep his spirit on us to continue to stand stiffly for the names of the Lord. And like I said, by us doing that, we got to endure. You see, that's how we're going to show the Lord that we're standing stiffly for him. We got to endure. We got to continue to deal with what we go through in our day-to-day lives, man. We got to continue to suffer. You see? But like it says right here, I'm going to grab that real quick. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 15, right? And I'm going to start at verse 58, right, in the KJV. And it says, therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable. You see, that's how we got to be, brothers, in these times. We got to be unmovable, man, no matter what situation that ultimately comes our direction. We don't want it to, shake our faith. We want it to ultimately to build us up in the spirit. We don't want it to move us, to get us discouraged, to get us doubting. No, we want to be unmovable. It said always abounding in the work of the Lord. You see, should nothing take our minds off this path, man, that we're on. Nothing, right? It says, for as much as you know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. Like I just said, everything that we're doing is going to be rewarded if we endure. You see? So, yeah, that's pretty much everything I had to say with today's video. Lord's willing, I pray it be edifying to you, brothers and sisters that come across it. With that being said, we're going to end the lesson by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash, and double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of the great millstone that rule well and teach well while learning truth 100% according to the Bible. So the next time I'm going to say shalom to the elect.